He hasn't really been invited, but he apparently has prepared something. So I'm going to hand over to Brendon Kennedy.
Yeah!
Evening, everyone.
Hello, Brendon.
I'm delighted to be able to speak today at Glenn's birthday party. I must say I was very surprised when I got a call from Carol. He said, please, would you say a few words at Glenn's birthday? The last major event I was at with Glenn was his marriage to Carol. I hoped to speak at that event, and Glenn said, no, there's no ways you're going to speak at that event. So I said, well, I'm not going to have this. So I knew that Sean Gent was the master of ceremonies. And if any of you know him, he's no pushover. So I said to him, look, Sean, would you mind letting me speak? And if I give you 3 free beers, will you let me? So he said, look, I'll settle for 1. And I was lucky enough then to speak at that wedding. I hope I did a good job. It's quite surprising, though, that I've been asked to speak again. One really has to question Glenn's motives. But perhaps when you turn 50, it's increasingly difficult to make decisions. I turned 50 just over a year ago. And one of my biggest challenges in my house, it's a double story, and often I find myself at the bottom of the stairs and I'm not sure whether I'm on my way out or whether I've just come down. Fortunately though, in my case, I'm able to turn to alcohol to avoid confusion. As you know, alcohol damages the brain cells, but what's happened now is that science has discovered that it's the weaker brain cells that are killed off. So it's like a form of natural selection. So in drinkers, what happens is these redundant cells die off and you get left with the active cells, and now you've got a much more efficient brain. Of course, in Glenn's case, that's not going to happen. So his brain is filled with all these redundant cells, trying to make way for the other cells, but it's just a mess. It would really seem inconceivable that he'd not opt to take action against these cells. But maybe that's why he makes these odd decisions. But I think then it's only fair that I tell you about some of them. Many of you wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to Kariba with Glenn. I've been many times. It's a wonderful place. I don't live here anymore. I miss it terribly. So you can imagine in the morning, everyone gets up. Glenn's bright and alert. We've all got huge hangovers. We say, right, we're going fishing. So it's early in the morning. Boats are prepared, stick our rods in, off we go. As you know, when you fish in Kariba, the best fishing spot is the furthest away from the boat. So you spend at least 20 minutes traveling to the spot. So in this particular day, we set off. I had the short straw. I was told I had to go on a boat with Glenn, and there was one other, small tender boat. So we get to our fishing spot, cast the rods. It's quiet, beautiful. You know how it is in Kariba. And then Glenn breaks the silence. He said, boys, I've got a bit of pressure. So I look at him, I think, so maybe he's got a headache or something. So I say, Glenn, are you okay? So he says, yeah, no, I'm fine, but it's like urgent. What's the matter? So he says, well, look, we can't go back to the boat. It's too far. And we can't go to shore. You know how the national parks are. So look, I'm going to have to do it in the boat. So what do you mean? In the boat? He says, yeah. No, look, I'll go this side, you go that side. So I look at the other occupant of the boat. I think, it's panic. Let's move. So we dive over to the one side of the boat. Of course, what happens is that side of the boat goes down. The other side comes up. So I think this is going to be a problem because the debris has further to fall. So now I'm sitting there gripping the side of the boat thinking, please, let me just think of something else. So I turn back to look because I'm worried about Glenn. And I see he's already in that position, like this. So I turn away, no, please. And then I hear plop, 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 plop. And then I realize things are already underway. So I think to myself, please make this moment go away. I'm traumatized by it. It's taken me years to get over it. And what I realized many years later is that when we were on the river, I often used to see those hippo. And when they'd finished their business, their tail would go like this, flapping. And I always used to feel a sense of calm. I used to think to myself, I wonder why that is. I always feel so calm when I see the hippos doing that. And then I realized what it was. You see, on the boat at that time, there was no toilet roll. So when Glenn finished, he had to do it with his hand. And, I have to announce that the victim on that boat with me on that fateful day was his ever-devoted spouse, Carol. I think she needs to be congratulated for overcoming such trauma. Toast to Carol. I mentioned earlier the challenges that one faces when you turn 50. We're now at the age when getting up and sitting down is often accompanied by a groan or a grunt. I often used to look at people when they went, oh, as they sat down. I thought, shame. And there's obviously some muscular issues there. But as I got older, I realized that there's other issues that you face. And often it's best to make a noise like, as you get up, or just to disguise the sometimes odious emission of noxious gases that sometimes you don't want others to hear. One of the other issues, of course, is the excess of hair. You've noticed that I've got my own problems, and I've been growing these only for a few weeks. But Glenn, I think it's been 15 years now that he's had excess nasal hair and like a forest growing out of his ears. It's got so bad that his daughters once took him to a beauty parlor and they had his nasal hairs waxed. Can you imagine? Apparently, and I haven't seen it, but they put an implement up your nose with wax and then rip it out. Anyway, despite Glenn's lack of appreciation of alcohol, he's been fully involved in any parties. He seems to really shine when there's drunkards around him. What happens mostly is he ends up behind the bar and then he decides it's time for cocktails. It's often late in the evening. We've sort of lost our sense of decision making. And I've seen many of his friends caught up in this. One of the ones he used to do is he used to get a globe of the earth, spin it around, put his finger on it and say, right, this is the country that I'm going to make the next cocktail from. One of his favorites was, I think it's called the Stutch cocktail, where you put a raw egg in your mouth, hold it there, then you break the egg, the contents go into your mouth, then you put all sorts of other concoctions and Tabasco and all that. And of course, the whole purpose of this is to stop any projectile emissions. And he thought that it would be worthy if he showed his daughter's boyfriends just only last night how this would work. One of them failed dismally, the other passed the test. Glenn, as a child, was obviously in a very challenging environment. He spent most of his time hopping from one island to another in Kariba. Fortunately, his parents said, well, look, we're going to have to educate him. Obviously, he's not got much future with the way he's behaving now. So they sent him to that wonderful school, the Chinoi School for Finishing. I looked on their website, and I've been unable to find anything that Glenn accomplished there. I did hear, though, that he won the marbles champion 2 of the 3 years that he was in Form 2. Apart from that, I don't think he's really achieved much at all. For all of his flaws, though, Glenn does share a common interest with many of us. He's a great lover of the outdoors. He spends as much time as possible in Kariba, in Nyanga, on the Zambezi. I've had many wonderful holidays with Glenn in those areas. He fancies himself as a fisherman, also as an expert 4x4 driver. He's a proficient boat driver as well. Fortunately, a lot of this has been documented with photographic evidence. Unfortunately, though, Glenn he really likes selfies. So he's often taking selfies. Fortunately, in this digital age, you're able to delete most of them, but somehow some of them have stayed, and I'm going to show you a few of them. So I had a look at Facebook, did some stalking, and with the help of a few anonymous friends, I've managed to put together a few photos. And I'm going to demonstrate to you what type of person Glenn really is. All that remains for me, to a great friend of mine, Glenn, happy birthday.